The late 1980s were a time of neon lights, big hair, and even bigger dreams. It was an era where pop culture was dominated by larger-than-life personalities, and among them, Paula Abdul shone like a supernova. Her rise to fame was nothing short of meteoric. From her early days as a Lakers cheerleader to choreographing for the likes of Janet Jackson, Paula had an undeniable talent that transcended the boundaries of dance and music. Her debut album, Forever Your Girl, released in 1988, was a cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just an album, it was a movement. With 4 number-1 hits, Paula became a household name. Her voice and dance moves etched into the collective memory of a generation. By 1991, her follow-up album, Spellbound, further cemented her status as a pop icon. The world was hers for the taking. She was everywhere on MTV, touring sold-out arenas, and gracing the covers of magazines. But as quickly as she rose, she seemed to vanish. By the mid-1990s, Paula Abdul was no longer the omnipresent star she once was. The world moved on, but for those who cared to look closer, there was a lingering question. What happened to Paula Abdul? It was a crisp autumn evening in 1992. The air was thick with the scent of fallen leaves and the promise of winter. Paula had just finished a concert in a small Midwestern town. The show had been electric, the kind of performance that left both the artist and the audience breathless. Backstage, the energy was still buzzing. Paula, ever the perfectionist, was already critiquing her performance in her mind, but the smiles and applause from her team reassured her. She was on top of the world. The plan was to fly back to Los Angeles that night. Paula preferred traveling by private plane. It gave her the privacy she craved and the flexibility her demanding schedule required. The aircraft was a sleek, 7-seater Cessna, a symbol of her success. The pilot, a seasoned professional named Jack, had flown her countless times before. He was a man of few words but exuded a calm confidence that put Paula at ease. As the plane taxied down the runway, Paula settled into her seat, her body still humming with the adrenaline of the performance. She glanced out the window, watching the lights of the town grow smaller as the plane ascended into the night sky. The cabin was quiet, save for the low hum of the engines. Paula closed her eyes, allowing herself a moment of rest. But peace was fleeting. The first sign of trouble was subtle, a slight shudder in the aircraft, almost imperceptible. Paula's eyes fluttered open, her instincts on high alert. She glanced around the cabin, but the other passengers, her manager, a couple of crew members, and her assistant, seemed unfazed. She told herself it was just turbulence, a common occurrence during flights. But then the shudder became a violent shake. The plane lurched, and Paula's stomach dropped. The cabin lights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the walls. Jack's voice crackled over the intercom, calm but urgent. "We're experiencing some mechanical issues. I need everyone to stay seated and brace for impact." Impact. The word sent a cold wave of fear through Paula's body. She gripped the armrests, her knuckles turning white. The plane was descending rapidly now, the altimeter spinning wildly. Outside, the night sky was a blur of darkness and flashing lights. Paula's mind raced. She thought of her family, her career, the life she had built. Was this how it would end? The next few moments were a chaotic blur. The plane hit the ground with a deafening crash, the force of the impact throwing Paula forward. She felt a searing pain in her neck and spine as her body was flung against the seatbelt. The cabin filled with the sound of tearing metal and shattering glass. Smoke and the acrid smell of burning fuel filled the air. And then silence. When Paula regained consciousness, she was lying on the ground, the cold earth beneath her. Her body was racked with pain, every breath an agony. She tried to move, but a sharp, stabbing sensation in her neck made her cry out. Around her, the wreckage of the plane smoldered, a twisted heap of metal and debris. The night was eerily quiet, save for the crackling of flames. She could hear voices, muffled, panicked. Her manager was calling her name, his voice trembling with fear. Paula tried to respond, but the words caught in her throat. Her vision blurred, the world spinning around her. She felt hands on her, lifting her, carrying her away from the wreckage. The pain was unbearable, a constant, throbbing reminder of the crash. The next few hours were a haze of flashing lights and frantic activity. Paula was rushed to a nearby hospital, where doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize her. The injuries were severe: a fractured neck, spinal damage, internal bleeding. She underwent multiple surgeries, each one a battle for survival. The pain was relentless, a constant companion that refused to let her rest. But Paula was a fighter. She had faced challenges before, had overcome obstacles that would have broken others. This was no different. She would survive. She had to. The days turned into weeks, the weeks into months. Paula's life became a series of hospital rooms, physical therapy sessions, and endless rounds of medication. The pain was always there, a shadow that followed her everywhere. She was prescribed painkillers, powerful drugs that dulled the agony but came with their own set of challenges. At first, the medication was a blessing. It allowed her to sleep, to function, to get through the day. But as time went on, Paula found herself relying on the pills more and more. They became her crutch, her escape from the pain and the frustration of her slow recovery. She knew she was walking a fine line, but the alternative, living with the constant, unrelenting pain, was unthinkable. Her career, once so vibrant and full of promise, was now a distant memory. The world had moved on and Paula was left behind. She tried to stay positive, to focus on her recovery, but the weight of her injuries and the toll they had taken on her body and mind were overwhelming. She felt like a shadow of her former self, a ghost haunting the life she once knew. As the years passed, Paula's absence from the public eye became more pronounced. Fans wondered what had happened to the pop star who had once dominated the charts. Rumors swirled. Some said she had retired. Others speculated about personal struggles. But the truth, the real story of the plane crash and its aftermath, remained hidden. Paula herself rarely spoke of that night. The memories were too painful, too raw. She focused on her recovery, on rebuilding her life piece by piece. But the scars, both physical and emotional, remained. The painkillers, once a necessary evil, had become a prison. She was trapped in a cycle of addiction, her body and mind dependent on the very drugs that were destroying her. It wasn't until the mid-2000s, when Paula returned to the spotlight as a judge on American Idol, that she began to open up about her struggles. She spoke candidly about her chronic pain, the multiple surgeries, and the toll it had taken on her life. And then, for the first time, she mentioned the plane crash. The world was stunned. How could such a major event have gone unnoticed? Where were the news reports, the eyewitness accounts, the official records? The National Transportation Safety Board had no record of a crash matching Paula's description. The media scrambled to uncover the truth, but the more they dug, the more elusive it became. As the years went by, the mystery of Paula Abdul's plane crash only deepened. Skeptics questioned her story, pointing to the lack of evidence and the long delay in her mentioning the incident. Was it possible she had misremembered or exaggerated an unrelated event? Had she fabricated the story to explain her career downturn and struggles with painkillers? Or was there truly an undocumented crash, a secret tragedy that had somehow evaded official records? Paula stood by her story, unwavering in her account of that fateful night. But without tangible evidence, the truth remained shrouded in doubt. The crash became a pop culture enigma, a story that captivated and confounded in equal measure. For Paula, the crash was more than just a mystery. It was a defining moment in her life. It was the night everything changed, the night she was forced to confront her own mortality and the fragility of her success. The pain, both physical and emotional, never truly went away. But it also gave her a resilience, a strength she never knew she had. In the years following her revelation, Paula became determined to uncover the truth about the crash. She hired private investigators, reached out to aviation experts, and even consulted with former NTSB officials. But the more she searched, the more elusive the truth became. The crash, it seemed, had left no trace. Paula's team scoured old flight logs, weather reports, and hospital records, but found nothing that matched her account. The pilot, Jack, had disappeared without a trace. and the other passengers had either passed away or were unwilling to come forward. It was as if the crash had never happened. But Paula refused to give up. She knew what she had experienced, the pain she had endured. She couldn't let the world dismiss her story as a fabrication or a figment of her imagination. She owed it to herself and to her fans to find the truth. The turning point came in 2010, when Paula received a letter from a man named David, who claimed to have been a first responder at the scene of the crash. According to David, he had been driving home from work that night when he saw the plane go down. He had rushed to the scene, helping to pull survivors from the wreckage. He remembered Paula clearly, her face etched in his memory. David's letter was a revelation. For the first time, Paula had a witness, someone who could corroborate her story. She arranged to meet with David, her heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. When they finally met, David's account matched hers in every detail. He described the chaos of the crash, the injuries she had sustained, and the long, agonizing wait for help to arrive. But David's testimony was not enough to convince the skeptics. Without official records or additional witnesses, the crash remained a mystery. But for Paula, it was a validation, a confirmation that she had not imagined the events of that night. Today, Paula Abdul's plane crash remains one of pop culture's most enduring mysteries. For some, it is a cautionary tale about the fragility of fame and the toll it can take on even the brightest stars. For others, it is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable pain and adversity, it is possible to rise again.